John Mbadi, the chairperson of the Orange Democratic Movement (ODM), who has been critical of the government's aggressive push to tax Kenyans, is now just steps away from taking over at the National Treasury as Cabinet Secretary. He has been a harsh critic of the Ruto presidency and Kenya Kwanza's tax policy. Mbadi is remembered for saying that Ruto's first cabinet was 60% incompetent and therefore proving the nominees would be, quote, giving Ruto his skunk, end of quote. Now, the economy is in a tough spot, and the skunk that Ruto was given has left a stink. A stink seems to have become a skunk, and it appears in an interesting twist, William Ruto has given Mbadi his skunk. NTV's Brian George Otieno takes a look at what the National Treasury looks like for Mbadi, should he be confirmed as Treasury CS.
They say a day in politics is longer than just 24 hours, and President Ruto's recent cabinet secretary nominations seem to just confirm this. And on his list is the key docket, the Money Ministry.
I have now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning.
The nominated Member of Parliament and Orange Democratic Movement Party's chairman, illustrious political career in opposition politics, is poised to take a sensitive turn, one whose curve is already attracting criticism and pressure, political and performance pressure alike, which could inform his telling demeanor in these celebrations after his nomination was announced. Away from the celebrations and the ceremonial dynamics is the real work ahead of him if he sails through. One of the main ones is the country's debt. According to the National Treasury's April 2024 monthly bulletin, the total nominal public and publicly guaranteed debt stock as at the end of April 2024 was 10.52 trillion shillings, which is 65.2% of gross domestic product. Domestic debt stock stood at 5.32 trillion shillings, which is 50.6% of the total debt and 33% of the GDP. The Treasury says external debt stock was an equivalent of $39.01 billion, accounting for 49.4% of the total debt. The debt situation has been vocalized by Prime Cabinet Secretary and Acting Treasury CS Musalia Mudavadi, who was before Parliament just about a week ago.
In order for us to resolve our debt challenge, we have to have a program with the IMF. It cannot be otherwise.
Aside from the debt headache, Mbadi, if approved, will also be tasked with spearheading government actions on financing the budget in light of the tough economic times and the setbacks occasioned by the shelving of the Finance Bill 2024. Mbadi, a key Kenya Kwanza tax policy critic, will potentially be looking at the reality of tax revenue shortfalls in the face. The Kenya Revenue Authority (KRA), for instance, missed its revenue target by 276 billion shillings as it collected 2.2 trillion shillings in the year ended June, a period when debt payments as a share of the tax collections were 73.8%. In October last year, Mbadi lashed out at the Ruto administration on what he described as overtaxing Kenyans, saying this negated the efforts to grow tax revenue. The accountant and legislator has been a key vocal critic of the Kenya Kwanza administration's management of the economy and general governance. As at 2023 October, when the Kenya shilling against the US dollar was in the 150 units range, Mbadi had proposed a solution.
Because there is too much pressure on the dollar, find a way of renegotiating international loans, because we have a problem.
As he looks to potentially join in cabinet to head the finance docket, Mbadi has been the subject of criticism of being the very things he was speaking against, which will take a lot to prove to the country he is not. And the government he is about to serve will not be, and hence inspire confidence in his work and leadership in the country's economic emancipation journey.
This is a cabinet that was informed by political expediency. The president has actually appointed 2027 campaign managers.
The former assistant minister in the office of the Prime Minister during the Mwai Kibaki Raila Odinga government has a political climb ahead of him, as some of his utterances already being used against him or being used as benchmark for the work expected ahead of him if he heads the National Treasury. Notably, during the debate on the confirmation of Ruto's first cabinet, he is remembered for this.
The President is simply telling us that we give him a cabinet that is not going to function because he's ready to run the entire government system, machinery and structure from State House using advisors. We have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk.
And with the Treasury being the heart of the economic transformation, the stinker from the skunk he spoke of is a tough economy in dire need of fixing, and this is the stink that Mbadi may be facing, as Ruto seems to have handed him a skunk. Kenyans look to see if Mr. Mbadi lives true to his philosophies and introduce the likes of economic stimulus packages. And if he gets into the country's top organ of governance, will he rise to the occasion and deliver? Will he validate the criticism of him being a sellout? Or is it a case of throwing stones at a glass house, but now being a resident and knowing where the carpet has tears? Brian George, Otieno, NTV, Nairobi.